Hey everybody, it's Christina of CraftyPaws. I'm here to share with you guys a coloring process. I recently tried for the first time using Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers and then Prismacolor pencils over top. And I really like the effect of it. It's really rich, saturated colors. So participating in the Kathy Racusin's 30-day coloring challenge, I thought I'd share this process with you. So first off, I am using the Stampin' Bella Maisie and Madeline Have Some Tea stamp set. It's so cute, and I've had this in my stash really since it first came out, and this is the first time I'm inking it up. I'm using VersaFine ink to ink it up because that is water-safe ink. And I'm stamping it out a couple of times using my Misty tool, and that's the image all stamped out crisp and clean. And what I'm doing first is I'm outlining the outside of the image with a light blue Zig Clean Color Real Brush marker. And I'm just taking my time using the point of the brush marker to get into all those little tiny nooks and crannies. And if you take your time, it won't bleed through. I am using Bristol watercolor kind of paper. It's a Strathmore paper. And now I'm using a water brush to blend it out and to soften it. My water brush was actually a little dirty, which is very unusual for me. It had some yellow ink on it from a prior project, but I actually like the effect of the yellow mixing with the blue and being very pale. So I just kept going across the whole top side of the image. And I really like this pale yellow. To wash off the water brush is really easy. I just dunked it in water and made sure that the brush was clean on a tissue before continuing on. But now I am trying to lay the groundwork for some like wood grain kind of look to the table. And I'm using, I think this is a beige color. If you're interested in the particular Zig and or colored pencil colors that I'm using, please check out my blog post because I'll list everything in there in detail. Now I'm coloring the petals of the flower, and I hadn't decided yet if I wanted this to be more yellow or more red, and I actually decided I really like the color combination of this geranium red with the yellow orange Zig markers. It blends beautifully together and it gives a really rich saturated color. And what I'm doing is I'm just taking the geranium red at the kind of base of each petal and along the edges a little bit. And then I'm going to go back and rather than using a water brush, I am going to blend this together with that yellow-orange color. And so it picks up a little bit of the geranium red onto this yellow-orange Zig marker. And that's fine because you can wash off the Zig markers onto a tissue so that the original color of the marker comes through. And you can see for a split second there that I have a tissue off to the left side of where the camera is. So I'm dabbing periodically just to make sure that when I start on each petal, the marker color is the true yellow-orange rather than the geranium. So dab to the left and then go back in and blend in with the geranium red that's already on the flower stamped image. So that's how it looks with just kind of a first coat. And I decide next I'm going to keep the yellow center of the flower, kind of a light yellow. So I start with, I think, a lemon yellow, and then I'm putting in a little bit of a shadow effect with a yellow. And then I decide I'm going to make it a little bit more yellow-orange and add that also. And I blend that back out with the lemon yellow. So it keeps it nice and bright. And now I'm going back in and reestablishing some of the darker geranium red on these petals because I realized that some of the blending as it dried kind of faded out that geranium red. And I really wanted this rich saturated look. So I'm going back in and just dabbing the geranium red color back in kind of where the petal veins or texture is in the stamped image itself. So that's the flower kind of with a second coating. Now next I decide I'm gonna go in and start with the little mice. They're so cute. I'm starting off just dabbing in kind of a darker brown. I think this is dark oatmeal. and I'm laying in where I think the shadows would be. On the underside of the little mice, where the indentation on the head would be by the eyes, I kind of bring in that darker color. And on the lower side of the face, with the mouse that has its head tilted, you see that right side is more in shadow because I'm assuming that the light source is coming from the upper left. Now I'm going on to the next lightest color, and I'm going to just blend in a little bit further than I did with that dark oatmeal. And you see on the left little mouse that I'm extending that medium brown a little bit further because I'm assuming that the mouse on the left will cast a shadow on the mouse on the right. And I'm also going to add that light or medium brown on the beginning portions where the ear meets the head. And I think I skipped over the little flower, but I colored that little flower in the mouse's head the same as the big flower. And now I'm taking a beige color and going in and blending all the way to the most of the head of each little mouse. I'm also extending where the brown is in the ears. And I'm taking a clean water brush this time. You saw me dab it off on a tissue and blending that out so that the top forehead and the little faces are a nice rounded, have that nice rounded look with the shadows along the edges and where the indents or the valleys would be in the eyes. For the ears, I started off with the yellow and then I switched to like a yellow orange. Then I decided this was a little too bright, so I'm dabbing off. I'm blending with the water brush and then dabbing off with my tissue to soften that look. So you've got a few combinations of techniques here. I am mixing the Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers one with the other, one color with another, or I am blending it out with a water brush. I decided I was going to originally try kind of a more beigey look inside the ears, but I decided I'm going to go with like a pale pink to give the little mice more of a live feel with a pinky hue inside the ears. And I think dabbed off, that's a really nice soft blended look. For the cup, I'm going to color up the main part of the cup with this lemon yellow again. And I start just by putting down a base coat of this yellow. And I'm not so concerned about that middle area because I know with my water brush I can blend it all out. And I want to keep that middle area of the cup lighter. And you can see me blending it out there with the water brush and keeping the center as light as possible while still having a yellow tone. I'm blending it out with a water brush and then dabbing it off with my tissue. I forgot that little underside of the little mouse that was showing above the teacup brim. So I went back in and colored that up too. On the inside of the cup, I wanted to have it look a little bit darker. So I'm using this yellow orange again. And on the outside edges, as well as on the inside of the teacup, on the bottom sides of the handle where there might be a cast shadow on the top of the bottom part of the little handle. Now I'm going back in and blending out the yellow orange with a yellow, and I'm bridging that gap between the lemon yellow and that yellow orange with this yellow. And I didn't like the lined look so much, so I'm trying to go back in and dab it away with my tissue after wetting it again with a water brush. It activates the ink every time you add water to it. But I will say the Strathmore Bristol watercolor paper was breaking down a little bit. You saw a little bit of pilling there as I was probably a little too rough with my water brush trying to lift up some of that color. At this point, I decide I'm going to move on to the saucer, let the cup dry a little bit, and I'm following the lines of the saucer shadow lines, and I'm adding that yellow orange again, and I'm going to blend it out with this yellow zig and just try to make it a softer look. And I think I'm trying to basically connect the saucer with the teacup. I'm lightening up the edges with my water brush and dabbing away the color with my tissue. And I'm thinking like it's a little bit too flat. So I'm gonna go back in again with that yellow-orange zig marker. And I'm just trying to reestablish kind of a more 3D contoured look by adding that darker color along the edges, making sure that, especially where the flower cast shadow is onto the saucer and onto the teacup, it's got that darker yellow-orange color. Now I am blending out again a little bit more with the yellow marker just to get rid of some of the lined look. I want it to have a more soft blended look. And I don't think I capture all of this blending out, but I end up adding a little bit more browns or burgundies with my color pencils later, because I really thought that the yellow looked a little too flat for the teacup. Here I'm still just trying to blend out the colors on the teacup, the handle, the saucer, and I'm using that lemon yellow because I wanted to keep it light. Now I'm moving on to the leaves here, and I started with a really pale green, and then for the center of the leaves I've gone with a darker green. And I think where the base of each leaf is, the darker color makes sense. And now I'm taking the lighter color and trying to blend the two together. But I'm finding that the lighter green is a little bit too dark still, and I wanted a little more contrast. So I end up next trying to blend in a little bit more of a light color using a yellow, yeah, there we are, to lighten up the color of the leaf. I wanted just a little bit more contrast and not to have it so dark. And I think just using that yellow really lightens up that leaf and makes it look more like a spring leaf. Now for the little polka dots on the teacup, I'm just using straight from the marker that geranium red again, tying the reds in the flower and the inside of the cup with the little polka dots. And then I'm blending it out a little bit with that yellow orange on the inside of the cup, just so that it's not a flat color. And I liked that look, and I wanted to have a more continuous or continuity in this image. So I, again, colored up the inside part of the saucer with that geranium red and blended it out with that yellow orange. And I really like how that kind of repeats that color over and over. Now I'm starting off with some of my Prismacolor colored pencils. And I just wanted to add some highlights following the curve of the saucer. And then on the top of the handle, I thought that would be a place where the light would really shine. So I wanted the outside edge of that handle to be bright white. I decided that I can add a more smooth look with a yellow-orange colored pencil along the edges. And I really like how it matches the color so well of the zig markers. And now I decide I want the highlights, that the bright area of the teacup to be even brighter. And I can do that right over top of the ink of the zigs with that white colored pencil. And then I'm deciding that for the background, I mean, I think the pale blue looks nice. There's nothing wrong with it. And I know a lot of people keep their images with a very pale kind of blue background around the image. But I really like the kind of intensity of adding kind of a medium and then a lighter blue in the kind of nooks and crevices of the image. So I start just trying to blend out with a little bit of a medium tone kind of blue, an aqua kind of color. And then right up against the image, I decide I'm going to go with a really much darker blue. And I love that contrast. And I think it adds kind of a little color excitement to the image. It's not anything to do with reality. I mean, there's no reason why the background would be darker around the image. But I really like that kind of rich look for the background as well. And that's not to say I'm covering up the yellow kind of cast around or that glow around the image that I got initially, but I do like having that richer, darker blue right around that image. And I think that's what I like about adding color pencil over top of zigs, it's so easy to control. If you have a fine point on that color pencil, you can go into any little nook or cranny and add any amount of details like I'm adding here onto the petals. I added a little bit more of a pink hue to the inside of the ears. There's no fear that it's gonna spread like crazy. There's so much control with those color pencils. I die cut around the image with a cross-stitched circle die. I layered that over top of a panel that I dry embossed with a We Are Memory Keepers Next Level dotted embossing folder. And then I added the Celebrate word die cut that I colored up very similar to the background of this colored image. And that Celebrate die is from Neat and Tangled. And that's the whole card. I'm actually a really beginner at color pencils, but I enjoyed trying this out and just experimenting, and I hope you guys will give it a try too. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and I hope you guys are having a wonderful crafty day.